All right, welcome Expatters to today's stream. We are going to go over a handful of things. Just keep it light and casual. Open up some time for Q&A. So if you're popping into the chat, feel free to leave any questions, anything and everything, and I will get to them the best I can. If you're watching this after the fact, be sure to leave any of those questions in the form of a comment. So I'll start off with just a brief state of the union. So, if you guys have been watching the news lately, you might have noticed that there was a bit of a security incident in Mexico over this last weekend. So, nothing too terribly alarming. This stuff does happen every now and then. For those that have followed the channel for a while, you'll know that I lived in Guadalajara. I actually left, like late 2010s or so, and things started getting kind of sketch there. So really what you want to do in those instances is just keep your ear to the ground, stay tuned to the news, keep your nose clean, keep your head on right, keep it on a swivel, especially if things look like they might be amping up. Just use general precaution, watch your P's and Q's, and you should be okay. A lot of people I know after this weekend, I was at a music festival, and we'll get into that. When I came back from the music festival the next morning, everybody in my family and anyone that remotely cares about me back home in the United States is, "Oh my God, are you okay?" Or, yeah, I'm fine. I'm in Mexico City. I'm in a nice neighborhood. Mexico's a huge country, so there were some isolated type instances around the country. That's typically the response you see when there's any sort of like major operation of that sort. So just keep that in mind. And then the way I consider that kind of stuff is mentally I treat it like a natural disaster. So you hope it doesn't happen, and if it does happen, usually it doesn't affect you. But depending upon where you're living, you have to keep these things in consideration. So when I lived in Houston for a few years, major flooding zone. If there's crazy rains or there's a hurricane, well, that's something you have to keep in mind. Fill your bathtub up, make sure you have ample water, food supply, all that good stuff. When I lived in California, wildfires were a real thing. Earthquakes were a real thing, although the earthquakes don't rock California like they do here in Mexico City. Like Richter scale wise, yeah, sure, you'll get them up there. But the California buildings, I noticed they kind of sway when the earthquakes hit. Here in Mexico City, I'm in a more modern building, so when the earthquakes hit, it sways too. Usually, I just had a test go off on my phone as I was trying to set up the camera. So they have earthquake alerting systems here. I use an app called SASLA, your regular emergency response. Systems in your cell will go off too. I'll actually hear sirens out this window here. There's one right across the street. But typically, if I get like an earthquake alert and it's like, okay, it's 300 kilometers away and it's less than 6 on the Richter scale, I know that I won't even feel it here in my building, and I won't even bother to go downstairs. So when it comes to things like security type issues, just be aware of things that might happen in your area. Have somewhat of a contingency plan, a backup plan. Here for I'm more worried about earthquakes than anything really here, because they do hit us hard and they do hit us fairly often sometimes. So I've got a bug out bag. I've got some emergency cash that's easily accessible if I need to get out of Dodge. So keep these things in mind. No matter where you're at, whether you're in Mexico, your home country, or wherever, have an emergency plan, emergency response plan, have emergency contacts. I know with my family, we have code words or key phrases that indicate certain things that might have happened, certain levels of emergency or specific follow-up plans. Obviously, don't share those with anyone, but an example could be like a nonsensical question, asking about something that people in your family might know. Okay, this means that this is a potentially serious situation. It might sound like something innocuous to anyone else, any bystanders that might be listening, but discuss these things with your loved ones back home or wherever. Have a bug out bag, have an emergency plan, and then realize these things are really isolated. They usually only occur in very specific situations in very specific parts of the country, but it's just wise to be aware of things that might occur, and then have a follow-up plan, have an emergency plan for when those things do happen. But when the major instance hit the news, I was actually in the middle of a music festival. So EDC Mexico, they do it every year. I've gone, God, like the last 4 or 5 years I've lived here. I treat it like an ultra marathon. So I don't use any substances or drink or anything like that. Took my main girl this year, so it's kind of a annual thing that we do, and I take it seriously. So I train in the gym a couple weeks leading up to it, knowing that it's going to be an intense cardio session. In a former life, I was a bit of a raver. Let's say the first year I got down here, just about every weekend I got into like the underground rave scene and the rooftop parties, and there's all sorts of private groups, and you get to meet all the DJs, and you get into that scene. So in any major city that you live anywhere in the world, there's going to be cultures and subcultures. So whatever that might look like for you. For me, I'm a musician. A good buddy of mine, Joel, on the channel, he's a DJ too. So he spins at local nightclubs here every now and then, pretty good ones too. And he usually does the closing sets. So when you get into that scene, and a lot of guys, you'll know if you've been to Mexico City before, if you happen to be living in Mexico City, it's really easy to get sucked into the nightlife or the fun. So I'll admit it, first year here, I didn't take things too terribly seriously. Still flying on the novelty factor of, oh my God, I escaped the U.S. I live abroad again. So it was quite a good time. And then of course now, just back on my normal grind day to day. I wake up and have my coffee, work, go to the gym at some point, come home, shower off, play guitar, cook dinner, have Chica come over, maybe watch a little bit of YouTube videos, something on Netflix. I'm not a big TV consumer, and then head to bed. So you will eventually get into your normal lifestyle, but there are those memories of the rave days. So every single year, EDC, it's a major event. It's the Electric Daisy Chain Carnival, Electric Daisy Carnival. Originally started off in Las Vegas at the Vegas Speedway there. They actually do it at the Speedway here in Mexico City too. It seems to be fairly similar to the setup in the US. I think almost identical. There might be some stage decorations or whatnot that change, but it's a major event. Couple 100,000 people that come here every year. They try to peg it as an international event. You'll notice here that the vibe changes a bit. In the US, usually electronic music festivals are EDM, electronic dance music type festivals. And I know I used to do Coachella back in the day when I lived in California. It's an adventure. So you go out to the desert, or in the case of EDC in Las Vegas, you go to the Speedway there, and it attracts people that are actual EDM fans. There are still quite a few EDM fans here, but you'll notice that a lot of people locally here in Mexico City, they treat it more like a fair. So that was the first year I went. It's like, okay, grandma and grandpa are here, and the whole family's here, and kids are here, which is really cool. If you're into that stuff, definitely get them into the that type of environment. But it's not a weekend long fantastical escape like it is in the US. So me and Chica, we do our costumes. We plan them weeks or months ahead of time, get the gym routine down pat, ready to go, because it is an endurance event for us. And we notice she's actually from Colombia. So, my early days here in Mexico City, she and I would actually go out and rave pretty much every weekend. Now, don't do any of the substances, don't do any drinking or any of that stuff. So coming into it is like, oh my God, I'm getting up there in age. Can I rave for 3 days straight? The answer is yes, actually. When you're clean and clear and you're in pretty good physical shape, do your cardio coming up to it, especially in Mexico City. We're higher altitude. So you'll notice guys in the gym, you might gas out a little quicker in your rep schemes or splits. But coming into EDC, it's like, okay, we're gonna be able to rave for 3 days straight. Absolutely, yes. Wore our costumes. Now, the really cool thing is that there's not that big of an international presence. If you're festival goers for major festivals in the US or anywhere else, you do get people from all over the world. Certainly, there are other foreigners here. There are people that come from other countries dedicated to the festival, but it's not a microcosm of the entire world population. It is 99% locals or people from Mexico or the other Latin countries, and every now and then you'll see a foreigner here and there. You can usually tell the foreigners because we actually have a different EDM culture in our home countries, to where we wear costumes. I get Angel with the first day that did like white linen pants, shirt off, angel wings, face painted, hat on, rave gear. Back in the 90s, I'm dating myself. Back when it was cool to get your ears pierced as a guy, I did that. So a lot of people don't know that. I had my ears pierced, put the LEDs in there, had all the LED gear, and walking around with Chica every corner. Oh my God, can we get a picture? Oh, great costume or great couple or things of that. So that's kind of a fun experience. And the other festival goers that are wearing costumes. You do have your rave crowd here, and you'll run into people. At least for me, from my rave days, my early days here in Mexico City. But the international crowd, usually we're all dressed up in costumes. You do the candies, so you put your fingers, you have the peace and the heart. I can't do it, heart sign, and then you do your fingers, and You exchange your bracelets. So that kind of like rave festival EDM type subculture, it wasn't as prominent here. I go every year in Mexico. It's still a blast. But you'll notice actually when you start to get into the pit, or when you get into the crowd, most people aren't dancing. They're just standing there drinking beer and cigarettes. So they kind of treat it like a normal bar thing, which culturally it's interesting, but it is EDC. However, if you're expecting an EDM festival similar to the US or Europe or elsewhere in the world, it's not the case here. They treat it more like a fair, which is fine. But a lot of times we've noticed there's not the etiquette of coming in and out of the audience. So we're wearing full costumes and angel wings, take up a little bit of space. We're dancing. We dance nonstop for 3 days straight. That's why you go to an EDM festival. Electronic dance music. Dance is in the name, but they didn't quite get that memo here, and they still haven't figured that out. So most people they're not a queue culture, let's say that. I think the old stereotype in the UK was that, they get a nice formed fashionable queue or a line, as us Americans call it. Here, not so much. They're more of a mob culture, just kind of cluster F into to the space. It's very obvious we're dancing. Everyone wears black too. It's like a metal concert. Chico has asked me, just like, are we at the Guns N' Roses concert again? Why is everyone wearing black, and why is no one in costumes, and why is there no LED and bright neon stuff? That's just the local culture here. I don't know if they're too cool for EDM school, or what the deal is, but again, it's not to complain. It's just saying that there are some cultural differences when it comes to electronic dance music, and this pertains to the festival. When you get into the rave scene, you go to the rooftop parties, you go to like Sunday, or any of the nightclubs where EDM fans go, and you get more into that subculture. Then pretty much everyone dresses up to the theme. A lot of the parties, like for example, when I lived in California, they do the white parties. If you go to a white party not dressed in white, there's a good chance you're not getting in, because that's going to mess up the whole vibe. So they still have those subcultures here, but at the festival level, in getting masses of people going out, they treat it like a normal concert, and it's really weird. Again, Chico's Colombian, so it was really weird to us. Like, why is no one dancing? When I lived in Mexico 20 years ago, everybody danced for any sort of occasion. There didn't even really have to be music or a formal, so to speak, dancing type event or occasion. People just danced. When I lived in Texas, you go out to a country bar, everybody dances, and you change partners. Hey, bro, dance with my wife. Hey, dance with my girlfriend. Dance with my cousin. Dance with my sister. Nothing weird. No like pickup culture. It's just they're a dancing culture, and that Mexico used to be that way. So it surprises me every year when I go. I was like, they're coming to an EDM festival and they're not dancing, which is fine. It's totally cool. Like, still, support the genre, support your artists. It is an audio visual experience too, which is really cool. Back in the early days of me getting into EDM, it took a while for me to get into it, because I am a musician. I thought, oh, it's just some guy that put some program together on a laptop. But then I actually worked for one of the companies that produces these large events. And then I have an appreciation for all the back end that goes behind it, the 3D projection mapping and all the visuals and the lighting and the logistics and shipping all this stuff down here, striking it up, tearing it down, front of the house, back of the house, tuning the actual environment. So sound stage, in the middle of the stage is like usually a little booth. It was funny on one of the main stages, the right channel kept cutting out every now and then. So if you're audio guys, I do audio stereo and I do home audio and all that stuff too. It's another little kind of niche passion of mine. I was like, oh, okay. So it's like literally just a faulty RCA cable, but these giant full stack arrays, multiple levels. So you have the main line stack array, and then you have the middle, and then you have the back. It's a massive event. Even here in Mexico City, again, they do it at the Speedway. It is really cool if you're into the audio visual type presentation, or you just want to vibe to some good EDM. A lot of the sets, especially the headliners, were absolute fire this year. It was great. But if you're going and thinking that, oh, it's going to be a majestic, fantastical escape, and everyone's going to be in costumes, and they're going to be pretty people or beautiful people in the EDM festival vibe, it's more so just kind of just a cross section of society here. Everyone goes, in general, people like electronic music here, but don't expect dancing or exchanging candies or a lot of costume stuff. But when you do show up, again, it was really nice. Chica and I, we wore costumes all 3 days. Day 3 got unusually cold. It got down to like 5 degrees centigrade, and with the wind chill, it literally felt like it was below freezing. So we went out in full costume, of course. We get in shape for it. We treat it like an ultra marathon or an endurance type event. shirt off, abs are finally popping, coming off the Thanksgiving and Christmas, a bit of indulgence, let's say, so to speak. So all the soft tissues finally gone. You're jacked, you're shredded, you're ready to go to EDC. The last day, it was super duper cold, but still had a great time. Had to drink a lot of coffee, hot cocoa, stuff like that. And when you're burning so many calories, like diet goes out the window. It's a calorie equation for you skinny guys out there that I've coached or we've trained together. You'll know that it's like, hey, you just got to put on weight. It's a calorie equation. You just need energy. Quick energy, so diet goes out the window. But when the headliners came on, it was so cold that last Sunday night that the audience, just the energy changed. Everyone was just raging and raving and jumping up and down and fists up in the air. And even the headliner, we went and saw, there's two headliners on Sunday night, the closing, Anima. I've seen Anima multiple times. So, and then apparently they didn't do the visual part of the audio visual Anima experience this year. So I guess I didn't miss much. We went and saw Zed, and it was just spitting straight fire, high BPM, high energy, just everyone jumping up and down, raving. And he even mentioned, he's like, wow, with the cold, I wasn't expecting this turnout or this energy. And then Chica and I were saying to each other, well, you kind of have to, because it's so cold that there's really no other option. And your feet are tired. My iPhone tracks the steps, like 50 to 60,000 steps a day. Most of those weren't walking. It was like actual dancing or jumping up and down. So it is a major marathon event. It usually takes me a few days to recover. This was a 100% sober festival for us. This year I haven't drank alcohol in almost a year now, so I always thought that, okay, it takes me till Thursday to recover because of the booze or the substances. No, it's just because that you literally did an ultra marathon. It's damn near 100 miles worth of steps that you took, which is crazy. So that was EDC Mexico. I go every single year. I'll go next year too, guys. If you want to come next year, you're coming down. I usually put together a little group, or I go with a more intimate group of people, and then other friends from my rave days here in my early days in Mexico City. We'll meet up, we'll rendezvous. They've got the funny totes and all that kind of stuff. When Joel cleans this up in post, I'll see if he can like throw some pictures or videos or whatever on here. Although when I go out, I don't really take videos or pictures anymore, because I like to be in the moment, which is a really cool thing, that when you live abroad, you don't get sucked into the nonsense. And again, that was a segue from this escape over the weekend. We treated it like an ultra marathon endurance event, and then you come out of it, and then dozens of text messages. Oh my God, are you okay? Oh, you're in Mexico. Hey bro, like check in. Hey, we're worried about you. It's like, I'm far away from all that stuff. We were at the Speedway at a 3-day music festival. And I would say, Mexico does a couple of things really, really well. So when you talk about cultural differences, a lot of times people will focus on the negative. But Mexico does things really well, and especially Mexico City, they do their international events well. They have the Formula One races, they have the electric races, they have multiple music festivals throughout the year. MLB looks like they come every April. So and it's all in that same complex there, same part of town. So I'll go to the MLB series in April. I was a baseball player all through college, played baseball down here in Mexico for a couple seasons years ago. Getting up there in age now, but had a great time. So I'll go to the MLB games. Looks like, I believe the NFL is coming down here in October next year. So we're getting the World Cup this summer, which is really cool. So Mexico City does large events, large international and large prominent events very, very well. So I assume that they factor that security layer into the equation. I wasn't too worried about it, didn't have any instances. But again, going back to the previous point, just make sure you have an emergency plan, guys. Be planners, especially when you're living outside of your country and in your own country. Go ahead and do that as well. Let's see, have some comments coming in. Don't give a flying F, fam. Okay, well, cool. You don't have to be here. Damn, y'all rude. It's up. Hey, how's it going? I asked for ice at MCDS today, and the cashier got deported. Oh, that's funny. We have some fun people that pop in on these every now and then. Yeah, how do you tongue roll? So I did a video on this a couple years ago. It's like a short on the channel. So it took me forever to do this. The trick that I got, and I don't remember where I got it. Maybe it was like a Reddit forum or somewhere. This was years ago, but say the word, this worked for me. Pot of tea, and then start saying it fast. Pot of tea, pot of tea, pot of tea, pot of tea. And I would do it actually on my commute home from work when I was younger. And then eventually, don't think about it either. Just pot of tea, pot of tea, pot of tea. And eventually your tongue trips up on itself. So pot of tea, and then my tongue did the r, r, r. And I was like, oh, there it is. And then you try to elongate it. It's like, para ti, par. Now I can't do it. Parati. And so for me, trilling the R's never too hard in the middle of a word like carro, but when the word starts with an R, so you have to overcome that mental block like rojo. But it's really for English speakers, especially because we have more of a rigid, more of a fricative language where you'll notice in your early days of Spanish, back when I was still drinking, usually a beer or two, it kind of loosens everything up here, and then your tongue can relax, so it can actually make the more subtle, the softer, the more fluid movements in Spanish. Whereas English is very, if you think in terms and physically how to produce the sounds, it's a very rigid language. So you kind of have to trick your tongue into doing it. And then once you do it, mentally lock that in. Okay, that's what that feels like. People used to tell me, "Oh, just put your tongue behind your teeth and go." Rrr. Like, okay, but if I have no mental neural connections formed on how to do that, then I literally can't do it. So I had to trick myself into doing it. Again, I did a video a couple years ago on it. It's one of the more popular shorts on the channel. Got a lot of feedback saying that it actually helps. But essentially, this is what I did. I'm sure there's other methods out there. You have to trick your tongue and your brain into making that sound. So para ti, para ti, para ti, para ti, para ti, para ti. And then hopefully that helps you out or gets you a lot closer. And I'm sure there's other methods out there. Uh, so that's the EDC experience. That's the security situation. I don't go too much into detail for that stuff, guys. I always recommend, especially when you live abroad, and try it when you're at home too. When I went home for Thanksgiving, and I put out in the family chat, "Hey guys, everyone in the family, like most American families, we have people from all walks of life, all different ideologies, philosophies. I don't want an awkward Thanksgiving dinner. Otherwise, why would I fly home? I can just have Friendsgiving here, and it's gonna be awesome because it'll be international, and we all bring dishes from our host countries. And a lot of times, Thanksgivings in Mexico are better than Thanksgivings back home. But yeah, I do miss my family, and I like seeing them. And if everyone's getting together, I'll take the flight up there and do it. But I told my family about a week out, like, hey, nobody, like, let's do a pact. Nobody watch the news. Don't, like, obviously, if there's an earthquake or a volcano blows or something like that, a major natural disaster, go ahead and do that. But leave the politics out for like a week or two ahead of Thanksgiving. And sure enough, we had a fantastic Thanksgiving, great dinner table conversation. Just, how's life? How's work? How's the family? How's the kids? Any vacation coming up? Just normal stuff that, people used to talk about prior to this, like, really kind of toxic political climate we've seen in the U.S. and it's even international. You'll see the people popping in the chat. We get featured on videos locally here every now and then. It's like 99% negative comments. So people really don't have lives, and they really get sucked into this stuff like it's a religion. But especially when you move abroad, you have the opportunity of leaving that behind and creating your own new social environment, your own ambiance, your own circle of influence, which is really, really nice. So most of foreigners I hang out with down here, guys, if you work with us and get in the Mexpat group, like, none of us, yeah, we're up to date on what's going on and we have opinions on it, but it's nuanced stuff. We don't get sucked into the right versus left or red versus blue or up versus down or any of that stuff. It's kind of ridiculous. It's really kind of low IQ type thinking. So hopefully if you do come down or you decide, like, hey, you know what, I want to live a healthier, happier life. Don't get lost in that stuff. It's kind of a time waste. And you realize you free up a lot of hours in your day to where you can do stuff. Like, I get into the music and I do little car projects and I do projects around the house, and I'm planning a trip or two coming up here. I go to concerts all the time, any major music festival in town you go to. So really it's all about just your lifestyle curation, but it's really hard to escape too. And everyone's like, "Oh my God, are you okay? There's a major security event this last weekend." Just in general, do your planning, have your bug out bag, have some cash in the house, in local currency and US dollars. You would be amazed what a crisp $100 bill does to get you out of Dodge. I've traveled all over Central America and a good portion of the world, and I've been to very nice countries and not so nice countries, and that'll get you out of bind very, very quickly. So again, just plan all this stuff when you come down here, and that will segue me into a couple of questions I had recently in our Mexpat chat. So we do talk about Guys, dating was the primary focus of the channel, and that's still something we cover quite a bit. But as we're getting older, as we're getting settled here, pretty much every guy we've ever worked with, like 95% of them, they come down, hey, I want a girlfriend, I want a wife, I want a long-term situation. They get that very quick, and then it's just day-to-day life. What's it like living in a country that's not your own? So I'll answer a couple questions that someone presented to. We have multiple Mexpat private chats, so for fitness and finances and fluency in the language and logistic stuff and travel and meetups and all that kind of stuff. In the general chat, so somebody posed a few questions, and these are pretty common questions that we get on the channel. So the first one is when it comes to visas, so to come down on temporary or a tourist visa. Do you want to go? Do you want to go temporary residency, permanent residency, or citizenship? So I'll break them all down. Tourist visa. Most of the time, Mexico they'll give you up to 180 days, depending upon stuff that's politically going on in the U.S. So usually as a response, when the U.S. cracks down on immigration, or there's a lot of stuff in the media in terms of immigration guidelines tightening in the US, then a lot of times I've seen this in the past, especially when I studied abroad in Guadalajara. I've always gone long-term residency options, like student visa back in the day. But from other people, a lot of times, guys, when you come down for shorter term, just come down on your tourist visa. If you're here for a week or two, come down on your tourist visa. If you stay up to 90 days, you can still do tourist visa. Usually they'll give you 180 days, no questions asked. However, there have been instances where they'll look at your passport, they'll see multiple entries over a relatively shorter period of time, and they'll think, okay, is this guy trying to live here on a tourist visa? And again, it's up to officer discretion. I've seen instances where they give you 90 days. I've seen instances, this happened a few years ago, especially during pandemic when the world was kind of weird about international travel during pandemic. There are instances of, again, people in my network, in our Mexpat groups, to where, hey, they only give me 10 days. Back when I was in university 20 years ago, a lot of kids just came down on tourist visas. They'd overstay the visa. It was then, I believe it was a 200 peso fine back when the peso was roughly 10 to 1 exchange rate. Now it's, when I came down right after pandemic, it was 22 to 1, which was really nice. And now it's more so like 16.5 to 1, 17.5 to 1. That's a peso to the US dollar. For reference there. So now I've heard that there's still a fine that it's usually just a slap on the wrist. I've never heard of anyone being barred entry. I have heard of foreigners or Americans being deported, but that's usually because you're getting into stuff you shouldn't. Just as a general rule, when you go to any country, don't commit crime in your home country. How about that? But especially when you go abroad, like really be on your best behavior. You are a guest. There is a very small percentage of people that aren't so fond of foreigners, no matter where you go in the world, and you are representative of your home culture. Don't be apologetic. I saw in one of like the Facebook expat groups the other day, some girl's like, oh, unfortunately, I'm American. I was like, what do you mean, unfortunately? Like, that's what you are. Wear it. Be proud of it. Yeah, I'm an American. We invent like half the stuff and like pretty much everything, like lights, cell phones, laptops, internet, airplanes, automobiles. Like we've done a lot for the world. We're pretty cool when it comes to that. And I had a girl over last night. We were talking about this. I'm like, my culture's done a lot to advance society, and we're so friendly. We share it with everyone, and then we let millions of people come and live in our country. We really don't ask for much. Just don't break the law. Don't commit crime. Don't defraud our governments. That's not to get political. That's just general like basic common sense. So guys, when you come down to Mexico, it's the same thing. Don't be an asshole. Be a good guest. And guess what? People are really nice here, and you're going to have a really good time. So it's Mexico, I always say, is a magical country. It will give you exactly what you put out into it. So if you come down with a good attitude, you're willing to learn, you want to dive into the culture, you want to meet people, go explore the sights and sounds and scenery and the beautiful landscapes, you're going to have a good time. You're going to have a great time. Now, if you come down with alternative motives, I won't mention explicitly for the YouTube algos for what that might be, but you can use your wildest imagination. You're going to have a very bad time. That's the energy you're going to put out there, and Mexico will give you exactly what you show up giving it. So it's very honest. It's very fair in that sense. So just a bit of an aside and a note on that. But when it comes to visas, Tourist visas for shorter term stays. Usually I recommend, I came down for a week and then went back to the US, came down for 2 weeks, then came down for a month, and then came down for 3 months. Going back to the US each and every time, or I traveled over other parts of Latin America and Europe too, because I realized after pandemics, like the nonsense I experienced in California, they could just like uproot your entire life from you, pull the rug from underneath you. We're paying 50% plus taxes in California, and you can just shut down the entire economy. They closed our beaches. That's what it was. They closed our beaches at one point. I'm like, all right. Like, obviously, in the early days of pandemic, we knew sunshine's good, vitamin D is good, being fit is good. Pretty much if you're not fat, you're not a drug addict, you're not diabetic, you don't have some sort of degenerative disease. It has a 99.9% survival rate. So for me, I was like, all right, let's get it early. Let's get it early and out of the way. It was annoying. It lingered for a few weeks. Didn't lose the sense of smell, the taste. I lost my sense of pitch, which as a musician, that was pretty annoying. Like I couldn't distinguish the distance between the notes, which was made playing not fun or almost impossible for a few weeks. But after that, I'm like, oh my God, California lost their mind. I'm not interested in going back to the US. Did this thing for a decade and then just uproot my life. I'd already lived in Mexico before, decided to come back to Mexico, but did the exploratory trips, a week, 2 weeks, a month, 3 months, and then after 6 months, this was all on tourist visa, up to the full 180 days. And again, it's not guaranteed they'll give you the full 180 days. If you're not sure, you can always ask. There are times when before I became a permanent resident, and then after I was on my student visa when I studied abroad here years ago, I'd come down every now and then. I just ask them hey, just give me the full stay. I'm going to travel around. I'm going to see some friends. I'm not going to overstay. I'm not looking to illegally immigrate. And they never had an issue with that. So if you're unsure, you can always ask. Again, it comes up to officer discretion. Comes down to officer discretion. It's not a guarantee, which is why in the group, I believe he's coming down here in a few weeks for an exploratory trip. So we make the distinction between exploratory trips and actual immigration. Now, if you're looking to actually immigrate, I always recommend exploratory trips first. I have had friends come down. We have had clients come down to like, you know what, I'm going to make the full move. Don't do that, because then they'll get down for a week or two or a couple months. And then I swear to God, like don't shoot the messenger. It's just coming from the horse's mouth. People will say things like, oh, I didn't realize everyone spoke Spanish here. I'm like, well, you didn't realize that? It's a Spanish speaking country. Of course, everyone speaks Spanish. Like what? Why would you not take these things into consideration before you just sell your entire life? You liquidate your entire life on Facebook Marketplace back home. You come down and then, oh, they speak Spanish? Oh, there's earthquakes? Oh, there's potholes? Well, yeah, you would have realized these things when you're on your exploratory trips. Oh, they have like 40 holidays, and then that means that they're going to launch fireworks all night, even if it's a work night in the US, because guess what? We have different holidays in different countries. Duh. Yeah, pretty obvious things, but a lot of people will come down and they're like, oh no, I'm just going to make the move, and then they can't stand it for whatever reason. And I'll give a good example. I lived in Houston for a few years. I was actually born in Texas, so my passport says, Fort Worth, Texas, USA, and I go to Texas. Oh, I'm from Texas. But living there as an adult, it drove me nuts being flat. I was in Houston for 3 years. The first flood, all my coworkers, oh, it's a 500-year flood, 500-year flood. I'm like, you know what? After year 3, we've had 3 floods in 3 years. I would consider this an annual flood. I don't like flooding. The water comes up. I do like storms. Storms are pretty cool. We're in the dry season here now, but after that will come the rainy season. So this view will just light up the night sky with lightning. I love storms. But flooding, just stagnant water and swampy, humid heat, that breeds to all sorts of mosquitoes and water moccasins and all sorts of stuff. And then, not to mention you can't drive. I'm a car guy. I like to drive. So that didn't work for me. But what really did it for me in Houston was it's always humid. It's always hot. And if it's not, it's like torrential downpour, apocalyptic weather. So it's like in the morning driving to work, it's already 85 degrees and you're just sweating. Constantly sweating. All the activities for me that I noticed, they all revolved around alcohol. I always said that alcohol was a primary activity, and then bowling was secondary. Golf was secondary. Sports games were secondary. Movies were secondary. Whereas for me, I'm an active outdoor guy. I was born in Texas, but I grew up on the West Coast. I like hiking. I like nature. I like deserts. I like getting in the water. I like just going on a nice drive with the top down and carving up the canyon. So that's my lifestyle. And Mexico City, for me, that was an easy lifestyle relatively to recreate here. But when I lived in Texas, the flatness drove me absolutely nuts. So keep that in mind when you come down for your exploratory trips. Have an open mind, and then really what you want to do. Yeah, the first couple days you'll go out, you might go out and party a bit. Hey, why not? You know, it's novel, especially if it's new to you, your first time down here. Go soak it in, have a good time. But before making an actual move, like actual immigration, make sure I tell guys, hey, like rent a place that's like not some really touristy hotel in a neighborhood you could envision living in, and then just simulate your day-to-day lifestyle, because you need to make sure that you can actually live day to day. The novelty eventually wears off, and then now you live here. So for all of that, do your tourist visa. Now coming into, once you decide, after I spent 6 months, I was like, you know what, I'm going to live in Mexico City full time. I lived in California for a year, so I did the hybrid plan. So I was based in California, and then during my time off, I'd come to Mexico, Mexico City, other LATAM countries. So I just decided, okay, I already lived the lifestyle. I'm just going to move my base from SoCal to Mexico City. That's when you want to look at immigration, actually getting your residency. So you start off with your temporary residency. It's for a year. Did that first, then you get your then you get it renewed up to 3 years. I believe it's 1, 2, or 3 years. They gave me the 3 years. My 3 years up at the end of this year. Now I have the option if I want to go naturalization or if I want to go permanent residency. And then, guys, if you join MexPat, you can get in the group. We have these conversations all the time. We do have immigration attorneys in there. They're very good. They're very thorough. They're very quick to turn things around. If you have like financial instances, if you want to buy property, if you want to set up businesses, legit businesses here, they'll help you with all that stuff. We have the full network. So definitely take advantage of that if you do decide to work with us at some point. If not, for entertainment purposes, I went ahead and did the process myself. I speak Spanish. I studied abroad here years ago, played baseball here a couple of years. So I had already lived in Mexico 4 or 5 years previous to coming back down post pandemic. So I did it myself, residency route. You go on the website, make sure you meet the requirements. There's different ways to qualify. Most foreigners, what we do is economic solvency. They change that every year. It's based on the Mexican minimum wage. So as their standard of living goes up, Mexico recently raised their minimum wage again. The peso is actually quite strong, so the exchange rate isn't as favorable as it has been in years past. Despite what negativity you might hear on the news, their economy is actually doing really well. I believe in the next 10 years or so, they're set from a forecast wise to be a major world economy. So a lot of promise here. The middle class is growing rather than collapsing as compared to the US. We don't realize it because I think most of us grew up in, like, the US used to have a robust middle class. It's shrinking, and now you're having the haves and the have-nots in the US. Traditionally, that was LATAM and most of the world for that matter. But Mexico's middle class, it's slow to grow, but they are growing. Their economy, their GDP year over year is increasing. The peso is holding strong. So definitely positive economic outlook for Mexico, which is really nice. But in terms of immigration, look at the requirements. They update it every year. I did mine years ago. Once you get approved the first time, you don't have to do bank statements again. You don't have to fly back to the US and go to a Mexican consulate. Guys, if you're already down here at the tail end of your exploratory trip and you want to do that, just fly to Tijuana, Volaris, Aeromexico, Viva Aerobus, although I can't really stand that airline. I've only had bad experiences with them. Cheap budget airline, go to Tijuana, do the CBX, the land bridge, walk across, get an Uber, go to downtown San Diego. Super easy trip. You're there in a few hours. Go to your appointment at the Mexican consulate. Turn in all of your paperwork. So I know immigration's a hot topic in the US, and people are like, well, you can't just walk across a border and then just stay here indefinitely. No, that's not how the world works. That's not how any sovereign nation works. Mexico is no different. Do not be confused by that just because the US has lax immigration policies, that the rest of the world does not. They do not. Mexico, you go to the consulate, you go to your consular appointment, you will have your checklist on the website. And I can have Joel put this in the description. On the website, they'll give you a checklist. Literally just check them all. If it asks for blue ink versus black ink, make sure you do that. I know I had an issue where my folio, the number of like my actual packet of information, like the actual form, was cut off. So that required me having to. I was able to sweet talk the supervisor, like, hey, let me just fill it in with a pen. But they were threatening that, oh, hey, you're gonna have to leave and come back tomorrow. I was like, I'm not coming back tomorrow. Let me talk to your supervisor. We're just gonna fill this in. One thing that was hard for me to get when I did that, they wanted like 12 months of bank statements. So you can either qualify with consistent minimum amount for the last 12 months or total savings and investment for the last 12 months. I met both of the requirements, but you need all your bank statements, all your documentation, put it together in like a nice little plastic folder, get your passport photos, get your headshots, make sure the dimensions are exact because this is a government process. Any government anywhere in the world, just follow the instructions. You'll get passed through pretty quick as long as you meet the requirements. One thing I did get caught up on was at the time I consult now, but at the time I had full-time employment, so they wanted a letter of authentication that I'm actually employed. Okay, that was easy to get. This is very common in Mexico and a lot of countries. They wanted a copy of the driver's license of my boss, and I'm like, oh no, because in the U.S. we don't do that. They do bank transfers here, so you just give people your credit card numbers or your clave, your bank account number, to do digital transfers. In the US, you don't give your credit card number to people. And actually for that, privacy.com is what you use since it is so common here. So go to privacy.com. You can do prepaid card amounts. You can do cards for specific vendors. You can toggle them on and off. That's how you get around that because it is common. It is very common in Mexico to do like bank transfers and share credit card information. I tie it to, and this actually gets us in the next point. So let's back up. Residency visa, 1 year, 3-year renewal. Now I'm looking at permanent residency over citizenship. The way my lawyer broke it down was that you don't really get any added benefits except for the benefit to vote, but you can potentially open yourself up to more liability, especially with talks in the U.S. of potentially doing away with dual nationality. I like to live an easy life. I like to be healthy, happy, free, not a lot of distractions, not a lot of dissonance or noise in my life. For me personally, that doesn't lead to a healthy, happy life. So permanent residency will be my next route. You'll just go schedule an immigration appointment, go back, whatever new paperwork, whatever new requirements. For me to get the temporary renewed, I just showed up. They did your biometrics again. They printed out a new card. They do it all right there, and then you're ready to go. It's funny in the U.S. they're talking about like voter ID now. Like that's a non-issue in most countries in the world because literally once you get approved in Mexico, they give you what's called a CURP, which is equivalent to U.S. Social Security number. So I don't have voting rights here. I'm not a citizen, but I am in the system. So for like social benefits, for tax purposes, all of that kind of stuff, they give you an RFC for tax purposes. That's a separate process. Your CURP is like just your local number. In the U.S., the closest equivalent would be your Social Security number. Your RFC would be like your ITN, your identifying tax number or whatever. I'm a U.S. citizen, so I've never had an ITN. But so they do have systems, they do have processes, they do it right there. It's done on the spot, and then you're good to go. Now you can open bank accounts, you can rent property, buy property, you can transact. I bought a car last year, that's a topic on the agenda. So then you become official. Like now you can actually participate in society. You're not just a tourist. Now, in the eyes of the locals, you'll never be a local. That's one thing. Again, guys, if you're coming from the US, Canada, UK, someone could just show up to the US and like, hey, I'm American. You're like, hell yeah, brother, you're American. It's not how it works in any country in the world. They will never see you as one of them. Understand that. Be cool with that. Just know that's the lay of the land. You're not in your homeland anymore, buddy. But get official. Do everything the right way, and then it's really easy. So that takes me to my next point. One of the questions was banking. So you can choose to bank in Mexico. There's a lot of international institutions like Citibanamex is tied to Citibank. Santander is tied to Bank of America. And you might need Mexican banking for some reasons, but to say this, at the end of the day, their financial products, they just aren't as good. So if you can get higher tier type credit cards in the US, better from a global marketplace perspective, there's better financial products in other countries. If you have access to those, use those. So what I recommend to a lot of guys, I do this too, Charles Schwab, like for $5 minimum deposit, you can get a Charles Schwab Platinum checking card. Use that for your ATM withdrawals. So I don't leave any money in that account. I do a Zelle transfer from what I call my flow through account. That's my primary account. No bills are tied to it. Nothing is tied to it. That's where direct deposits go. And then that's where money goes out to, whether it be my brokerage accounts, investments, whether it be my cash account. So that's my Charles Schwab Platinum checking. I only transfer money to that via Zelle. It lands immediately when I'm actually outside of the ATM to pull out the exact amount. For any sort of cards or anything, I use like your higher tier travel cards. I have the Chase Sapphire Reserve. I have the Venture X. That's because I travel to other foreign countries outside of Mexico. Once you have a financial effatry occur to you a few times, you realize, hey, it's really nice to just like weird charges show up. Nope, dispute, gone, off. Whereas when you tie it to your debit account and heaven forbid your card gets hacked or your identity gets stolen or something like that, it's not fun. That's like actual cash that's gone, and a lot of times you won't get it back. So with the Visa cards, I'm personally not a debt guy. I don't carry debt. I don't take out car notes. I don't finance anything. But for that layer of protection and that backup and that security, I do use the higher tier travel cards. You accrue a lot of points, especially when you do all your expenses on there very quickly. So like airfare, I never pay for airfare. Like you get all the multipliers. I do have two cards, so you get certain multiplier categories are more beneficial on one card over another. You take an afternoon, you plug it into Chat GPT, you look at all your transactions, and then you categorize the right transactions on the right card. You just live your life like normal, and at the end of the year, you're like, oh, I have 100,000 miles on this card. That'll just pay for my Christmas trip home, which there's surge pricing around the holidays anyways back to the US, so that's really what it just pays my holiday travel back to see my family. So that's how you set that up. Chase, I'm sure there's other options out there. This is what I do. This is what most guys in our group do. Chase Platinum Checking, again, just transfer from Zelle, from like Zelle or Cat, but whatever. Whatever money transfer app you have. I use ones with no fees or very low fees to pay stuff locally, like my rent. I do that through Wise, the lowest fees, and I've ran it between PayPal Business and Remitly and Wise and the other apps. Wise is always the best one for me, and for most guys that are on network. So that's how you do that. If you do need to do credit cards, bank transfers, privacy.com, set up a temporary card. You can do a dummy name, dummy expiration date, all that stuff. And again, these are degrees of separation from your primary, what would be a debit account. And for me, I treat it mentally like a pass-through account. So that's how you set all that up. Oh, I see some comments. Let's see. Okay, got some trolls. Transman, I actually am on HRT and TRT, so that's really, really good. I'd say I've done it exceedingly well. So, guys, one thing you'll notice here, I know this is trolling, obviously, but I'll go ahead and play with it. There are a lot of people that are in those alternative lifestyles, Lego, 1631. If you're into the trans thing, there's plenty of them here. There's a vibrant LGBTQ plus two, I'm not sure what it is, community. You can do that here. You can do all your hormone replacement here. So usually when people troll, it's typically a projection. You're into that kind of lifestyle. I can't tell you that much about it. A lot of guys here, they are into like hormone optimization, anti-aging. Get our bloods done every 90 days or 180 days once you get on your protocol. Medical care is very good here. I've got a mole on my head I have to go get taken off tomorrow. Very easy. You go on an app called Doctoralia, and then you just see who's available. They list their prices out there, right there. You schedule the appointment, you show up, you get it done. No medical billing, no insurance or any of that stuff. So Lego, if you're into the trans thing, if you're looking to convert, Mexico City, I'd say would be the place for you. And I lived in San Diego years ago. They had the is that Doomsday Cult? What were they called? Like the D and Doe, like back in the 90s. They had like $1.50 in their Nike shoes, so they could like hitch a ride behind the Hale-Bopp Comet. Those guys actually came down to Mexico City to get castrated. So not the focus of this channel, but if you're into TRT, HRT, transition type stuff, if you want to get castrated, if you're going full transition Lego, you can certainly do that in Mexico City. Definitely a lot looser laws when it comes to medical stuff here. Really, if you have the cash, you can do the procedure. And Mexico City has very, very good medical facilities and very well-trained doctors. In fact, a lot of them at some point are trained in the US or Europe or other countries. Good info. I appreciate them. Shave them brows off. Nah, I think I'm good at the eyebrows, but I appreciate you. Is the result of ChatGPT ever influenced by sponsorship from companies? Can Chase influence their sponsorship change the results of... Oh, you know what? I am a marketer by trade. We're starting to get more into that and getting the LLMs to recommend that. I've seen news that they're going to start doing an advertising type play on the LLMs, but I'm not too necessarily sure about that. Now, I believe a lot of times it's tied back to more like your technical, like traditional SEO, like your backlink juice, the quality of your content, how much you're indexed. I know that MexPat, we get picked up in the LLMs every now and then. That hasn't been a specific strategy, but it's a signal from the marketplace that we're starting to see. So I'm not necessarily sure about that. I do the premium version of ChatGPT. I use multiple LLMs on specific use cases. For specific purposes, for specific projects, but for like my day to day, like my VA, so to speak, my deep research tool is ChatGPT, just because they're early to the market. I've had premium for years. So like ChatGPT, it can get a little bit sycophantic in the early days, but once it gets to once you start to train it, it gets to learn you. It talks to me back in my voice. It pushes back. It calls me back on my own BS. If I'm mentally going down a rabbit hole, it's like, is this the best use of your time? So that's why I stick with ChatGPT. I've had the Chase I've had the Chase Sapphire Reserve and Venture X for a while now. Following a trip I had a couple years ago to the Middle East, where like just scam central, and I took a debit card, and that was just a nightmare. So now I'm like, you know what? I don't do credit, but I'm gonna do credit because I don't want to ever have to deal with this again. I did my research on my own, like Nerd Wallet or any of like your points type sites. Watched a lot of the YouTube videos. However, kind of like if you ever get into crypto, like all of the YouTube influencers that are talking about Chase are obviously fans of Chase. They're probably sponsored or promoted by Chase. So keep that in mind. But for me, I did quite a bit of research. Those two popped up consistently. Got approved for high credit lines for both of them, and realized, okay, this will cover me for pretty much everything I need. So that's why I chose those. Charles Schwab I've had for more than a decade. That was probably like a Reddit forum, or like, more traditional Google type searches at that point. So, oh, but yeah. Yeah, but Byron or Brian. Yeah, I know you're not showing up the question. That was that was someone else earlier in the chat. We get interesting people in here every now and then. So on that topic, covered banking. So yeah, for most guys, we keep the American banks. If you do derive an income in Mexico, so I have done creative projects here. Again, I'm in the music scene. I was in the rave scene for a while. I've done some commercials. I don't ever put myself out there as this, but I'm in pretty good shape most of the year. So I'll get offers to do like modeling, like quick modeling gigs, or for clients that are down here, like, hey, can you take the lead on the project? When I'm paid in pesos, it is nice to have a Mexican bank account, but I don't do my banking through Mexican bank accounts. And that also opens you up to more Mexican tax liability. And when it comes to just any regulatory, financial, banking type stuff, access to banking products, I bought a car here last year, bought it in cash. It's much easier. The financial products here are just not as good as other countries. So if it makes sense for your situation, definitely look into that. But most Americans that live down here or have expatriated or immigrated down here full time, we usually just keep our primary banking systems. We have a lot of Brits in our network too. They kind of do the same thing. Renting Airbnb or short term due to the visa. Visa doesn't really matter too much here, except for when it comes to renting. So there are, like, they call them aparto hoteles, or apart hotels, I think is what it is in English, like corporate style hotels where you can rent up to 30 days. They will do shorter term type stuff. You can still do the traditional Airbnb. You find an owner on there, and then you do a cash price outside of the app. However, you open yourself up to more risk there. So be very careful of that. I use booking.com. I have like the highest genius level. So I get like 15% off all bookings. And then I get flash promos all the time, like, hey, take an extra 100 USD off of your next booking or whatever it is. So I use Booking primarily when I do travel. I'm looking at taking a trip down to South America here in a couple weeks, potentially. So I usually use that platform. Airbnb I still use every now and then if it's like a really, really killer apartment on like the coastline or something. So that really depends. Short term, yeah, typically I just do the booking, or I'll look for the aparto hoteles. If you need recommendations, feel free to reach out to me. I do know people here locally that do like those shorter term cash type rentals, and they'll work with your visa status. There are actual buildings and property management companies that cater to foreigners here. They're a little more expensive. So if you sign like a 90-day, like short-term lease versus a 365-day or full year lease, then obviously that'll be a bit more expensive. The price tier will go down due to the longer commitment. So if you're looking at doing a long-term lease, definitely just get the residency. It clears a lot of things up. For renting, you do need what's called an abal or a fiador, which is like a co-signer or a guarantor would be the closest equivalency in the US, those are often hard to find. There's third-party companies that'll do that, but a lot of times it's a percentage of your rent or it's like a fixed fee. What I do is called a política jurídica, and that's really just like a third-party legal service that comes in. I renew my lease every year. The owner of the property comes, the property management representative comes, I show up, the lawyer comes, there's stacks of documents. We just sit and kind of shoot the S in the meantime while the lawyer prepares everything. And then we come over like you're signing legislation in like a government or something, just sign, 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 sign. It's really easy. It takes less than half an hour to get it all done. And then I'm on my merry little way with a updated lease for the next year. Also, if you're in Mexico City, they do have rent controls or like a version of rent controls. So the rent legally doesn't go up more than the cost of living adjustment. A lot of foreigners don't know that. A lot of foreigners get charged a gringo tax. If you go with larger property management companies, you will get more convenience, but you'll also get more of a gringo tax charged to you. I always recommend, this is what I did when I was in college down here years ago. I still do it to this day. You can look on some of the real estate websites and you can get pretty decent listings. Or traditional, just walk up and down the neighborhood or get Eco BC or Eco Bicycle. It's like $15 for a year subscription. They have them every other block or so. You just scan your card, you get the bike, you ride around, take pictures, put them into a spreadsheet, have one of your chicas or one of your local friends call. If they hear your accent, you will get dicked around a little bit. And then just set everything up, set up the viewings, agree to everything on the front end. And then if you show up with ready to go, then you're ready to go and you won't have too much of a headache here. Let's see. My cousin lost everything in Dubai. Yeah, those countries are like big scam cultures. You do get a little bit of that in Mexico City, but it's not like everyone trying to scam you. It's more so if they can take advantage and you present an opportunity for them to do so, they will do it. But they don't go out of their way to try to actively scam you. Like I haven't been to a lot of Middle East countries. The ones I have been to, pretty much they're all about the same. Have you ever had any issues get a hold of landlord or third party companies might be in between the properties? I have a really good landlord. So she lives out of state. This is more like an investment property for her. She does have a property management company. They're quite responsive. The building I live in is in a nice neighborhood. It's a more modern building. So she does pay what's called the equivalent of an HOA. So there's facilities here. There's maintenance here of the building. If something breaks down that, like, for example, they were doing construction a couple months ago, and then afterwards, that there was a leak. They like bust a water line, and then when they turned the main back on, I lost my hot water, or I lost my cold water on my kitchen sink. That's all building related. Over the summer, they were doing construction here in the neighborhood. They cut my they cut my internet line, so it took like a week to get it back because they cut the line to the building. That was all the building handling that. I let the landlady know just as a courtesy, so she's aware of what's going on, like with her actual investment property. But the building handles all that stuff, and then that leads me to another question. One of the Q&As we got in the MexPat chat the other day: internet, Starlink, or question mark. So there are major internet providers here in Mexico City. The major ones are Telmex, Total Play. They have, what's the other one? Izzy, and they have a bunch of tertiary ones. Mega Cable was a big one back when I lived in Guadalajara years ago. So I had Telmex, Infinitum. I think that's the main one in terms of market share. They have fiber optic cable right to the building, up to a gigabyte down, although typically I get like 500 megabytes on average down. That line was cut this summer. I did have a lot of work going on at that time. It was not convenient for me. I mean, it wasn't that inconvenient, but I had to go to a cafe for a week or so. I was not too happy about that. So what I did is I got a secondary line. So I have Telmex and I have Total Play. So now I have redundancy. I have backup. Over the summer, I was working in identity management, cybersecurity adjacent type projects. So there was a security or compliance layer there as well, where I needed to use my home line. The project I was on, they set they set all of that up for me. Their IT guys or whatever. But if in those considerations, especially if you're working, I'm doing streaming, so I need fast internet. I'm an audiovisual guy. I have a big screen TV mounted on the wall, have high quality stereo or high definition stereo and all that. So now what I do is I use Total Play for my living room main streaming center, and then I use Infinitum for my day-to-day work. But if one of the lines goes out, then I do have redundancy. I have backup now. So each of those lines, again, the USD to peso varies a little bit, but no more than $50 per line per month, and that's full fiber, 500 megabytes to a gig down per second. So not bad at all. I never have lag issues, and I streamed the Super Bowl a couple weeks ago. Didn't lag once. Completely fine with that. So in bigger cities in Mexico, now in rural areas, like if you're going off the beaten path, Starlink might be something for you. Although I had a buddy moving down from San Diego about a year or two ago who was going somewhere rural. We looked into Starlink. Apparently, you can still get signal in parts of Mexico, but I guess it's illegal in Mexico. That might have changed. That was 2 years ago. We looked into that. That was news to me, and actually quite surprising. But in your major metropolitan areas, you're gonna have good infrastructure. You'll have first world infrastructure when you're in the nicer neighborhoods, at least. See, have you ever had any issues getting a hold of the landlord? We already covered that. I was told Mexico City has good internet speed. It has great internet speed. I've never had any issues with it. I always joke, actually, whenever I have internet problems, it's when I go back to California. So if I have to go to the Bay Area or like San Diego for business, Silicon Valley, you're like, oh, they probably have good internet. Nope. Especially doing streams like from a hotel room anywhere in California. My internet always craps out. I've never had issues with internet anywhere in Mexico City. Let's see. Is it good? The lights are off. No, actually, the lights are on. You can see it on my face. I've got a light on the screen. I've got the ring light. Got lights here. Might be that your camera is a little bit into the alternative lifestyle. Again, that's completely fine. No judging here. A lot of guys are into that. If you're into that, Mexico City has a big, vibrant culture for that, and dorsal to divine, that would definitely be your place. I can't speak to much on that, but you'd probably know a lot more than I do there. You mentioned cybersecurity. Have you ever encountered overseas risks with working with a foreign company, Wi-Fi, or property supply? I have had issues working for like fintech companies. This was back in the day before I moved to Mexico City. I worked in El Salvador for a year, so even like my home U.S. banking apps, I would run into firewalls and get nasty messages or email alert messages. I think at that time, maybe El Salvador was known as being more of like the financial fraud scam culture. I've been back to El Salvador since, and that has not been the case. When I was in Turkey a couple of years ago, same thing with company equipment. They didn't like that. One thing I did have happen, I was working for like a cyber IT provider. So I'm a corporate consultant by trade. Huawei equipment, they don't like that. So I guess in the US and I believe Canada did something crazy. Like they held the daughter of the CEO hostage or something crazy like that. Not too long ago, I believe it was a couple of years ago now, but I connected with company equipment on like a Huawei network because they have Huawei stores here in Mexico, and got a nice email, not so nice email from IT. It's like, don't ever connect. I'm not going to say the company it was, but do not ever connect this company's equipment to a Huawei network ever again. So keep that in mind. Nothing major, like, I didn't get put on a PIP or, called by HR or anything, or risk of my contract being pulled. It was more so IT's like, hey, don't do that. So take those things into consideration. If you are working with companies on a remote basis, just let your IT department know. In the early days, I know a lot of guys. I've done job videos on the channel before, but I can do that. I can do a dedicated stream on that topic at some point. There are considerations. There are strategies for doing that. I am a consultant. I am US based. I work primarily for US companies, although there's a couple of years I worked for European companies, worked for a couple of London companies. I've worked for Israeli companies. I started my career in defense. So every now and then these sorts of projects or contracts will come up. So there are considerations. Just be transparent about everything. It's nothing their IT departments haven't dealt with before. What you don't want to do is try to pull the wool over someone's eye and then have them come back like, hey, our IT logs show you're actually from Mexico. Even if you use like ExpressVPN, these sophisticated cybersecurity and IT departments for these major international companies, they'll figure it out, and then you'll get yourself into problems. So just don't get into problems. A way to get around that, like if you're talking about a project or a contract or an FTE position, on the initial phone screen, I always say like, hey, I'm based in such and such state. That is for tax compliance and accounting purposes. However, I physically work out of Mexico City. Is that going to be an issue? If so, let's go ahead and save each other the time. I present it exactly like that, and like 95% of the time, like, oh, that's not an issue. And if it is an issue, then you get into, okay, well, why is that an issue? Oh, it's for accounting purposes. Well, for accounting purposes, we'll use my home state, not an issue, and it's never an issue. Now, if they find out after the fact, that's when it can become an issue. So I don't recommend you go that route. And we can do that. We can do those job search topics on Another dedicated stream, phone plan. So this guy in my chat the other day, hey, my US carrier sucks and I still need to call clients in the US. What most of us do, there's a couple ways. You can do like a Google Voice. You get one free number per Gmail account. It might be difficult to port over your main line. So I've had a cell phone since the 1990s. I'm the only one who's ever owned my number. My number is tied to all of my business. So what I do is I just have like the cheapest voice plan for a major provider in the US. I buy my equipment outright. So because of the channel, I have different considerations. Because of the channel, I use my cell phone for video B-roll type content. We have professional cameras, but for B-roll content, my iPhone is actually being used right now as my webcam. Supposedly it's up to 4K, but my streaming device is only up to 1080p. So might be a little bit of overkill, but that's completely fine. But I buy the hardware outright, no GSM restrictions, no nothing. So I can just put eSIMs on it. I think if you're tied in in plans in the US, you will see the major providers for US and Canada. They'll have international plans for Canada and Mexico. Those plans are always terrible. You will pay a fixed monthly cost, but then you'll get like a $700 phone bill because, oh, you're out of network or you're overage. Don't do any of that stuff. If you need to retain your US number, if you're fine getting a new number, just do a Google Voice and then you do an eSIM on your Mexico plan. They give you a Mexico number. If you want voice lines for my iPhone, the newest one, you can toggle between your voice lines. I have mine always set to my US voice line. That's how I do my business. I am paid in dollars, euros, shekels, stronger world currencies most of the time, unless I'm doing like local, mostly creative, fun, artistic projects in Mexico. Then occasionally I'll be paid in pesos. But my voice line is always static default to my US number. And then my data plan, the plan I have in the US, it has some data, but I don't ever go to the US, so I don't really need it. But it's part of the plan. It's the cheapest plan just to retain my voice line in the US, my technical, I guess, hard digital cell phone voice line, whatever that would be, technically. And then when you're coming to Mexico on your exploratory trips, so let's say you don't know Spanish that well, you can get eSIMs online. I used Olafly for years. It was 90 days of up to 5G data. I believe the last time I renewed it, it was years ago, was 135 USD for 90 days. That's the easiest route. You just go on there, you do your plan, use your US credit card number, they email you and they send you a QR code on your desktop. You scan it, it auto installs, you're great. The problem is it throttles the data very, very quickly. They don't tell you that in the fine print. That's not in any of their marketing or sales collateral either, but they will throttle the data. They gave me like an Austrian number, which showed up as my voice, like my secondary voice number on my phone. My data number tied to it was an Austrian number, although so I guess they lease like usage fees or data plans to the Mexican networks. That was a bit of a headache. And actually it was a lot cheaper to go the route of just go to Telcel, get the Plan Amigo. They can do eSIMs and then you just do it by gigabytes. So I up it every month, roughly. I think I do like 8 gigabytes for 500 pesos. So what is that? Like 35 US dollars. And a lot of times Plan Amigo or Telcel doesn't tell you this. You'll up it, whatever you up it at, they usually just double it. So when you log into like your Plan Amigo on Telmex, the UI UX is a little clunky. The first initial install, I think there's some UX features to where I kind of got the runaround, had to have a little patience, figure it out. But once it's actually installed, then I just log into my Telcel account and then I just re-up it. My card, privacy.com. It's not tied to actual bank cards, actual credit cards, privacy.com, which then goes through your banking. Actually, you know what? Take that back. Privacy.com does tie to your debit account. I use through VentureX and through Chase Sapphire, you can set up digital cards there native to their platform. So through my Chase platform, I can have digital cards for those purposes. And again, you just want layers of protection from like your main cash supply. I like redundancy. I have a bug out bag with cash supply here at the house. I have layers of protection financially. So if things, heaven forbid, if I go 6 months without work, I have a liquidity buffer. A lot of us do that, whether that be longer term treasury bonds. I do SWVXX, which the percentage, I mean, it's not high. It's not high returns you make. It essentially just offsets inflation, but it just protects you from losing cash to inflation. That's my digital liquidity buffer. So I never have to touch investments if there are lean months, and that happens, especially when you're working remotely, based on macroeconomic type conditions. There are times where companies go, hey, we're not hiring remote anymore. Okay, well, I've got a liquidity runway, so I'm good. I can do stuff locally. I can do music projects. I can do fun projects. I can do creative projects. You'll notice the more you see me on the channel, that means the less I'm working, usually in things that, pay really, really good money as foreigners. And although we call this Mexpat, although I live the expat lifestyle or immigrant lifestyle in Mexico City as my home base, I've lived this lifestyle for my entire adult life. So like this kind of borderless international type class, once you become a part of that, you can work in different countries. So you'll have European countries call you up and do projects or whatever. Again, I'll save a dedicated stream to talk about like job search strategies and how you want to strategize just in general of income generation while you are abroad. Naturally, it has to be digital unless we have guys here with like brick and mortar physical businesses in the US. They come down to Mexico for a few months. They have like a general manager, property manager, someone, and then they just go back to the US every now and then just to keep an eye physically on things. So there are different considerations based on your different situations. Another one, so phone plans, digital voice number with a local eSIM is a way to go. Last one, and I can do a whole topic on this, but this person asked, and we get this a lot with guys in our group, they've done the exploratory trips. Now they're making the actual like big move. They're leaving their life in the US behind, or you never really leave it behind, but you change your home base is the way I see it. So my home base is now Mexico City, but I still have a life in the US. I still have relationships. I still have things going on there. But day to day, 95% of your day, if you audit them, it's pretty much the same thing. I wake up, I work, I go to the gym, come home, shower, cook, eat, sleep, have Chica come over when it's her day to do so. So he asked about, would it be safe to drive from the US to Mexico? Depends on the route you take. I know there's different opinions there. Safe in terms of security, that's debatable. Depends on what's going on in certain parts of the country. In terms of your car getting beat up, it is a pretty long drive. You have to go through the desert, so make sure your car is road worthy and road ready if that is what you're looking to do. Now, in terms of safe, like, is it a good idea? Is it going to be a hassle in the long term? No, don't bring a car down to Mexico. You have to nationalize your car down here. It is a major pain in the ass process. You will pay a VAT or a value added tax on it again. I've heard from people that have done it. You can do it, but it's bureaucratic, it's lengthy, and it's usually not worth the effort. Anytime, even when I moved between US states back in the day, it was, for me, always easier. Like, okay, I'm not going to ship my furniture across the US. I'm going to put it on Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, have people come through, convert it to cash, put an envelope of cash, take it to my new destination, go to a new furniture store, that, have people deliver, haul it up the staircase or the elevator, set it up, and it's much easier to do it that way. Cars are the same way. You can do the naturalization, or it's a nationalization process. I've heard it's nothing but headaches. It'll cost you way more than your car is worth than if you just sold it and then bought the same car down here. And then recently, so I bought a car last year down here. You don't really need a car in Mexico City. It's kind of like a New York City, but I am a car guy. I like cars. I have minimum requirements, 30 miles per gallon plus, minimum fuel economy, 300 horsepower plus, and convertible. And a 2+2. So that doesn't leave a lot of models out there. Use your imagination. I bought a German car. I bought one that's a little older, like 15 years older. Bought it in cash because if you're doing transfers, guys, if you do transfers more than 10K and you're from the US, guess what? Your friend the IRS gets notified, and you might get fun correspondence for that. So my price point was less than 10K. Do know that in Mexico City, your car will get dinged. It will hit potholes. Your suspension will get screwed up. You might incur shoddy repairs. Now, if you're coming down here and you want to buy a car down here, I do have a good mechanic. I do have a good body guy. Fantastic work. 4.9 out of 5-star Google ratings. No gringo tax. No nonsense. They inspect your car. They give you a breakdown of cost. There's no, oh, hey, by the way, none of that. That was through trial and error. That wasn't the first take of that. So if you plug in our network, guys, you also get access to our local network. People that are vetted, they're trusted. They don't dick around foreigners. They don't do any of the nonsense that we were talking about, like Arab countries lately. And it's not a Mexico thing. It's how most of the world works. I think we're just spoiled being from the U.S. that we have a different way of going about business. We have different business standards and protocols, and we expect the entire world to work that way. A lot of times, if you're new going outside of the U.S., most of the world doesn't work that way. So it's not a Mexico gripe. It's just how humans work in the U.S., Canada, UK. That's changing, but we have a different culture for the way of just the way things are done business wise. So we do have a good network of good, honest mechanics. They don't give you a haircut when it comes to price. They do really good work. So if you need to get into that network, reach out to me directly or hit us up. If you work with Joel and I and MexPat, by virtue of working with us, you don't have to do like full on coaching or courses or whatever. You can just get us on a one-off call. We have different price points accessible. Guys, if you're local or if you're Mexican watching, hey, well, we have guys locally that can, provide any of these services as well. So we have all different price points for different products and services of different types. We're really just here to build a really cool network of really cool guys and then help you out along the way. And it just makes everyone's lives a lot better. But I do have mechanics. Insurance, I just renewed my U.S. insurance policy. It was really straightforward. They sent me an email. Here's a payment link. My annual rate for premium platinum, or I'm technically gold level in the policy, but they cover everything, is my annual premium is less than a month for the same exact car in the US. The car that I bought here, it went for used, and I bought it from the agency, certified pre-owned. I looked on cars.com the other day. Used car market's crazy in the US. Almost twice as much as what I bought the car here for the same mileage, same specifications, all of that kind of stuff. I bought the car single owner from the local agency manager, CPO, had all the service records, maintenance records. It is Mexico, so little things like the wrong size tires put on the car, the battery not being the right battery, so it needs to be programmed for, it was a German car, so it needs to be programmed. So little couple minor details when I first purchased the automobile, but overall, much less of a headache of like driving your car to a new country. It will get beat up. It will get dinged. You're going to put some wear and tear on it, and then you're going to have a nightmare just trying to nationalize it. So my recommendation is sell your car in the U.S., buy an equivalent or better one here. Used cars are cheaper here than in the U.S. Insurance is way cheaper than in the U.S. And then the agency handles all this. If you go for a legit agency, they have anti-lemon laws here. They don't do any of the haggling like, oh, well, the sticker price is this. The price you see is the price you pay. That's all things included. That's taxes, licensing, tags, all that kind of stuff. They'll just run that whole process for you. In Mexico City, you have to do emissions twice a year. My mechanic does that. It's just part of my regular maintenance schedule. He's just right down the road for me, and like he's a car guy too. So like if I have nothing going on a Saturday, or if I'll take it out of town and run it. They have BMW and Porsche rally groups here, so you can just meet up with the German car guys. You can rally on the highways outside of town. It's super fun. So sometimes I'll push it a little hard, and then I'll take it by the mechanic, like, hey, just make sure everything checks out, and as part of just general maintenance, And again, it's not that I need it for transportation, day-to-day A to B transportation. Traffic here is horrendous. It's like in New York. You're better off living in a neighborhood where everything is close nearby. Public transport is fantastic here. Ubers are super cheap, but I like being in the car scene. So by virtue of that, like my maintenance is up to date. Like there's nothing ever breaking on that car. So I'll just run it by the mechanic, and then, hey, you're due from emissions. Cool. Just do it. It's a couple $100. He'll just get it done. Stickers, tags, all that stuff. Imagine living in California or New York. Same thing. Mexico City is kind of the same vibe when it comes to all of that kind of stuff. I have a trusted mechanic. He takes care of all that. My body guy takes care of. You will get dinged. You will. I hit a pothole a couple of weeks ago, and then boom, took that front fender and shoved it up off the rack a little bit. Cost me like $200 to redo it. He repainted it, repolished it, and everything. Way cheaper than if I filed a claim with insurance. I have filed 2 claims in the last year. I had a branch during a rainstorm break through my window. I have a convertible, so it screwed up the top and that kind of mechanism. Called insurance the next day, got it to a preferred provider. They had the car for a couple of weeks. It took a while to get the parts from Germany. They were OEM parts, but got it done. Car operates like new, and I had another claim. I think I ran it hot, like blew. I boosted the turbo too high and like broke a seal or something, so I had to get it tow truck brought back to my mechanic. All of that was taken care of, and then I just renewed the insurance policy. 5 minutes. My premium actually went down year over year. So in the U.S., they punish you if you're a repeat customer. And this is a U.S. company. I use AIG insurance down here in Mexico. My premium actually went down with 2 claims on there. Most minor stuff, just pay out of pocket. Mexico City will do some wear and tear on your car in general. So I know this went a little longer than I intended, probably went on a little tangents, but Joel, you should get some pretty good clips and reels types opportunities. Let me see here. Anything else in the chat? Sometimes rumors are exaggerated. They say that Johannesburg was roaming power outages, but I had good internet here the whole time. Yeah, it depends on where you live in Mexico City. Stick to the good neighborhoods. We've had guys in the early days of Mexpat. They come down, I can live $200 a month cheaper, but live in a not so good neighborhood. So your water goes out all the time. Your power goes out all the time. Guys, like the name of the game is geo arbitrage. You're coming down here for a better life. Leverage that higher income from your home country or even other countries. I've worked contracts with multiple people from multiple countries. Even here locally, I'll get involved in projects every now and then. Do yourself the favor. Just live in a nice neighborhood, good internet, good roads, good infrastructure. All the plazas are here. All the nice restaurants are here. Ample green spaces. It's worth the extra cost. It's worth the peace of mind. It's worth not having to deal with the hassle of trying to save a buck or two. Same thing with the car. I bought an older car, cash car, but I like sports cars. So I bought a German car, found a good mechanic, got a good insurance plan. It's still way cheaper than anything you'll ever encounter in the US. Like for me to drive a 15-year-old BMW here in Mexico City, top down, Chica's hair blowing to the wind, doing some pretty aggressive rallying here in the mountains on usually a weekend or two a month. I'll wake up and it's Saturday and I'll see no one's on the roads. Traffic here it's literally, guys, it's next level. But Saturday, it's a long weekend, no one's on the roads. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go see if the rally guys are out. Just take it out to the mountain, run it pretty hot, run it pretty hard. I enjoy that kind of stuff. Way more fun than a Toyota and way cheaper than a Toyota. And as you know, cost of like shop prices per hour, or you pay Mexican prices, they're way lower. And then German cars are way more plentiful in Mexico. So like for me to get OEM BMW parts, it's not any cheaper than if I drove an American car or a Toyota here. So it's like, okay, if I can get the same performance for the same price and have like way more fun factor, I'll just go for the fun factor. And that's why you're doing geo arbitrage. So keep that in mind. You're coming down here to live a better life, get more sunshine, have better weather, date better women, eat better food, be in better shape, make your money go a lot further. Just go ahead and do that in all aspects of your life. Don't cheap out on yourself. You will thank yourself, guys. That will conclude this stream. I'll do these once every week or so. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. If you're catching this after the fact, reach out to Joel or I. We're super nice guys. We've got a great network of guys. If it's something we can't personally immediately help you with, we know people here locally that can. We'll get you set up and on the right footing based on whatever you're looking to do with your life, whatever considerations you might bring into the equation. That's why we call it Mexpat Lifestyle. It is a different culture, and it's a very small subculture here living abroad outside of your own country, but we have got a great community here, fantastic community, I'd like to say. And then we have a solid group. We just broke 100 guys here locally. So guys that are into fitness and finances and dating and music and arts and traveling and just living the best version of yourself. That's what we're all about. As you know, Joel has a day job. I have a day job. We do this on the side. So we have price points for anything you might need, or if you just want to stop by and, hey, let's meet up for a coffee. We're down for that too, guys. It's really just about building the network. That's where the value comes from. We want you to live your best life and be the best version of yourself. And that's what Mexpat's all about. So if you got value out of this, be sure to do us a favor in return. Comment, like, share, subscribe, refer to a friend. Leave any questions, anything and everything at all down in the comments, or reach out to us directly. And until next time, I shall bid you all farewell.